Hey, Steve Smead here with Idaho Falls Magazine. Let's check out the results of the 2017 East Idaho Community Photo Contest, sponsored by Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center and Perfect Light Camera and Supply. Our first category, events. Our first honorable mention goes to Angela Roach. Here's a great candid of young cowpokes watching the action at our local rodeo. Beautifully put together with a nice composition. Rodeos always make good fodder for interesting photos, especially scenes with the younger participants. For a lot of local youth, this is serious business, and Angela captured the mood nicely. Our next honorable mention goes to Mike Cook. Melaleuca's Freedom Celebration is the biggest spectacle on the Snake, but it is surprisingly tricky to capture. It requires all the technical things in any firework photo, but you also have to position yourself strategically to capture the light on the water and with minimal foreground distractions. Mike nailed this photo on all of that criteria. Fantastic photo. Third place in the events category goes to Brian Perks. No stranger to the contest in recent years, Brian has shown quite a penchant for high-key scenes with lots of well-controlled backlight. It's easy to overcook this type of image, but this attempt paid off and the result looks great. Second place in events goes to Shannon Bowen. The Carnival section of the Eastern Idaho State Fair always produces at least a handful of entries in our event category. This year, we had an abundance, thanks in part to the record attendance at the fair itself. Night photos are the hardest to pull off, but the payoff is huge if you capture the right scene. This image is not only tack sharp, but also mesmerizing for its inclusion of standing water to mirror the subject. First place in the events category goes to Denise Meter. Here's a shot that literally blew us away. The image has it all, thanks to a perfect exposure, great color, and the fact that even with the blinding, explosive light, Denise was still able to draw out some detail of the fire breather himself. Our next category, Scenics. The first honorable mention in the Scenic category goes to Jennifer Hall. Hardly new to the creation of breathtaking winter landscapes, Jennifer outdid herself here with an early morning winter vista of the South Fork of the Snake. The backlight filtering through the clouds brings the water and the tree line to life. It's a true testament to the old cliche that in photography, light is everything. Our second honorable mention goes to Todd Krumanacker. Study up on your meteorology, and you'll find there are no fewer than 10 distinct types of cloud formation. One of the most picturesque is the mammatus cloud and its signature pouch-like droplets. They're rare, but beautiful, and Todd captured this specimen over the Pocatello hillsides quite nicely. Third place in the Scenics category goes to Robert Ryan. There's a lot more to astrophotography than you'd ever believe. Like this fun fact. Most of the time, thanks to the Earth's rotation, it's kind of an action shot. One of the most important aspects is movement. Robert obviously took great care with this exposure, thanks to a long shutter speed and a perfectly positioned structure to anchor the Milky Way above. Second place in the Scenics category goes to Brian Hart. Usually in the Scenics category, pasture scenes play second fiddle to majestic mountain vistas, but the right setup can make all the difference. This perfectly composed shot, taken in the Blackfoot area, uses a low horizon line and beautiful cloud formations to make a high-impact image. First place in the Scenics category goes to Josh Packer. The right combination of foreground and background elements can make or break a great scenic shot. Josh positioned the old building perfectly in the upper third to give the foreground all kinds of room to breathe. Although backlit, there is still plenty of detail in the highlights and the shadows. Very impressive. The result is an artistic shot that just screams depth. Love those light rays too, of course. Now let's take a look at our winners in the portrait category. Our first honorable mention goes to Aubrey Lanier. The eyes have it in this tight, simple composition. Aside from its technical merits, including great skin tone, focus, and overall composition, we love the way the brim of the hat waves across the top of the frame as an echo to the contour of the tree branch along the bottom. Very well done. Our next honorable mention in the portrait category goes to Brian Perks. This great outdoor portrait is all about great color and tone. The subject looks natural and perfectly posed, but not too posed. Composition is also rock solid, and we love the selective depth of field, which really helps that hairdo shine. Third place in the portraits category goes to Mike Cook. On summer nights just after dusk, the shallow waters at Egan Lakes can look so serene that you'd swear you could walk on it. This photo definitely puts an exclamation point on that idea. It's perfectly exposed and beautifully balanced with light added to the subject. Love the pose captured here as well. Second place in the portraits category goes to Jolie West. You can spice up a baby portrait in all kinds of ways, but ultimately it comes down to a precious expression. That's what we've got right here. Cute and nicely executed. First place in the portraits category goes to Rachel Cook. This portrait works for all kinds of reasons. Not only is it perfectly focused and exposed, but it has simple but powerful elements that focus the viewer's attention. The fashionable hoodie serves as fitting attire for an outdoor headshot, but of course it is much more than that. The radial lines of the fur direct you straight to the intense gaze of the subject. Perfect. Now let's take a look at our winners in the sports and leisure category. Our first honorable mention in sports and leisure goes to Ashley Kelly. Photographing kiddos on a nature trail is challenging on its own, which makes this image all the more remarkable. We love the expression of excitement, the nicely balanced composition, and the clarity of this picture. It also helps that the butterfly, while small, is clearly discernible as the object of the little boy's attention. Our second honorable mention goes to William Tusher. Brilliant color, sharp focus, and nice composition make this image shine. We love the pattern of the net and how it seems to fit with the patterns on the trout. There's an often overlooked rule of thumb in angling photos to have as much moisture on the fish as possible. It creates a beautiful sheen and serves as a visual reminder of the subject's watery world. Third place goes to Josh Myers. Some photos just scream wall art. This one would fit the bill for sure. We love the perfectly captured action of the lasso and the spray of snow. No small amount of effort went into this picture, which is not only dynamic but also beautifully detailed and textured by the heavy snowfall. Second place in sports and leisure goes to Rachel Cook. Youth sports are always magnets for fun action shots. More often than not, however, the best moments happen between plays. Baseball is a great case in point, especially when the pace of the game slows and player attention begins to wander. First place in sports and leisure goes to Josh Myers. This fantastic image hit all the right notes in this year's contest. We love the inclusion of the Tetons for a sense of place, as well as the piercing gazes of the lead dogs. Aside from its uniformly outstanding technical qualities, this captured moment from the Purina dog sled races in Driggs also serves as a timely prelude to the 100th run of the American Dog Derby, being held this February in Ashton. New in 2017 is a category specifically for birds. Our first honorable mention goes to Gary Elwing. Some subjects begin exponentially more fascinating as you zoom in for a closer look. This is generally true for all birds, but especially so for upland game species. This intensely colored grouse stayed still just long enough for a perfect capture with a long telephoto lens. Our next honorable mention in the birds category goes to William Tusher. This osprey found a way to pause for a nice fence post portrait and still cling on to its breakfast. This is a great capture that isolates the subject in perfect focus with zero background distractions. The image was shot at Market Lake just last July. Third place in the birds category goes to Bruce Benson. Bird photography is challenging in all of its forms, but the trickiest feat of all is to get a great capture of a bird in flight. This image is a perfect example of the timing required to showcase the animal's breathtaking form. Second place in the birds category goes to Ernie Tate. This standing portrait quickly turned into an outstanding action shot thanks to some quick reflexes and a solid composition. The pheasant's telltale colors and patterns are rendered perfectly here. Simple, vibrant, very unique. First place in the birds category goes to Jennifer Hall. If you want your photographs to really make a splash, don't overlook the obvious. While birds of many feathers like to frequent the wet stuff for refreshment and R&R, few sights compare to the eared grebe in full mating display. This one was captured in Yellowstone National Park. Our next category, nature and wildlife. Our first honorable mention in this category goes to Denise Meader. You'll find no shortage of leading lines in this prickly scene. The animal's position is captured here perfectly. Aptly named Hanging Out, the image was shot last September up in Roberts. The next honorable mention goes to Tony Boiselli. Photographing animals on snow is often a challenge because the snow is so reflective, it often tricks the camera sensor into an inaccurate exposure. When the subject has white feathers or fur, it gets even trickier. One workaround is to get in close and shoot as tight as you can. Of course, that's easier said than done, but the rewards are huge, like this fine portrait of a wolf hanging out up at the Grizzly Discovery Center in West Yellowstone. Third place in the nature and wildlife category goes to Angela Roach. Most wildlife images showcase an animal in repose. That's almost always a good thing. Impromptu action shots, however, can have far greater impact. This image, dubbed Dust Bath by the photographer, catches a bison shaking loose and kicking up a storm. Second place in the nature and wildlife category goes to Josh Packer. The Tetons are the most photographed mountain peaks in the world, for good reason. But the best images tend to have something in the scene for added interest. For that purpose, it's hard to beat this shot of a bull moose posing near Schwabacker Landing during a fall morning. Our first place entry in the nature and wildlife category goes to Brian Perks. This image was judged to be technically flawless in terms of composition, focus, and exposure. But for added impact, it was also thoughtfully captured at the critter's eye level. The foraging raccoon was spotted along the Snake River last February. Finally, we have our open division. First up in the open division is an honorable mention for Brad Steiner. Flanked by beautiful landscaping and exotic plants, the Japanese Friendship Garden sits just a half step downstream from the falls of Idaho Falls. This image captures the beauty of the garden and its own assortment of water features. We love the image for its long, buttery smooth exposure and its gradual tonal changes. The next honorable mention in the Open division goes to Krista Arvey. Capturing an effective silhouette poses all kinds of technical challenges. One of the most common is composition. With limited to no detail in the shadows, subject placement is paramount. This image is a great argument for just how much impact a scene can have when properly composed, exposed, and focused. The result is a simple but striking image. Third place in the Open division goes to Gary Elwayne. One of the overlooked charms of black and white photography is that what you think you're losing in color is really a gain in other areas, like form, detail, texture, and tone. This image probably looks great in color. But as it is, it's not only great, it's downright mesmerizing. If we had an official award for Best Monochrome Image, this is it. Second place in the Open division goes to Brad Steiner. The key to a great still life image is just what the name implies, bringing a still to life. This image does it perfectly, through perfect focus and exposure of the details in the leaf, as well as a nice composition that emphasizes the reflection. We also love the soft colors and background through selective depth of field. First place in the Open division goes to Mike Morse. Probably the strongest entry yet in the history of the contest's Open division, this amazing capture is the obvious result of fast thinking, a steady hand, and a subject that is not sticking around for second takes. The aircraft was helping contain the flames of a fire burning outside of Ingham in June. Mike Morris's Open division effort also netted him the second runner-up prize in this year's contest. First runner-up for Best in Show goes to Josh Myers, whose top sports and leisure submission also happened to jive nicely with our story on dog sled racing. As a result, his photo landed on the cover of our January-February issue. This year's grand prize goes to Jennifer Hall's captivating image of the eared grebe making its splash, which has landed Jennifer a brand new Nikon DSLR kit from Perfect Light Camera and Supply. Over the past several years, Jennifer has produced a number of category award winners. A grand prize was inevitable. Congratulations. For more results from this year's contest, as well as our upcoming People's Choice Awards, please visit IdahoFallsMagazine.com.